OP walk away from home after watching her parents do a disgusting thing and ended up in the hands of a predator. I know, it sounds like something out of one of those really bad Netflix movies, but unfortunately for me, it's true. I was over at a friend's house for most of the day yesterday, and I wasn't supposed to be coming home until later in the evening. This is super common for me right now. My friend has a pool and stuff, so I've been at her house a lot since school ended a few weeks ago. Mid-afternoon, we decided to go and just drive around, then wanted to go shopping. I didn't bring my money with me. I keep my savings in cash in this little jar, so I don't spend it so impulsively. We decided to go by my house to grab some cash on the way to the mall. When we got there, my friend waited in the car because I was only going to be there for a couple of minutes. When I walked into my house though, my parents were on the couch. I don't want to be too graphic about what was going on, but my mom was on my dad's lap, teasing him. And it was very clear that they were about to have sex. They both froze when they saw me, which was totally expected because they didn't plan on being interrupted at all. I was frozen too, and then, after a couple of seconds, I realized my mom was literally wearing one of my favorite dresses. I wear it all the time. Not even like it's really revealing or anything, just a normal summer dress. We were all looking at each other in shock for a few seconds before my mom just said, "I'm so sorry, sweetie." I ran back out of the house and was crying by the time I made it to my friend's car. I started explaining to her what I had just seen, and she was calming me down. But then my mother came out of the house after me, literally still wearing my dress. I told my friend to drive away before she got to the car, and we went back to her house. We didn't give her parents any details about what happened, just that I had some family drama. I've been friends with her since way back, so they told me I could sleep at their house for a couple of days until I figured things out. I barely slept last night at all. Every time I close my eyes, it's like I see it in my head. My mom's called me a bunch of times, but I only texted her back to let her know where I am and told her I need time before I'm ready to talk to them. She replied again, apologizing and wanting me to come home today to talk to them. I don't think I can do that yet. Even typing this out, I've started shaking with nerves about it. What do I do now? I've never felt unsafe in my house before at all, but I also don't know if I'm comfortable being around my parents, now that I know that they're literally pretending she's me. I'm so grossed out, and I think I want to burn every piece of clothing I've ever owned. Edit. I really didn't want to write anything erotic about my parents on here, but since it's been suggested that they might not have been about to have sex a couple of times over messages and stuff, here goes. The top portion of the dress was pulled down, and they were doing stuff. If they weren't about to have sex, they were at least being sexual. Edit 2. I am not upset at all that my parents were having sex. It's the fact that they were about to have sex while my mom was wearing one of my favorite dresses. She and I never share clothes, and I've been trying to rationalize this some other way. But I don't see why she would have gone into my room and gotten that dress, unless it was for what I interrupted them doing. Comments from OP. I think I need to talk to my mom alone first. If she really was pretending to be me, I don't know if I can look my father in the eyes again without therapy. I'm just trying to get to a place where I feel like I could talk to either of them at all. I have never once felt weird around my dad, or felt that he was looking at me in a sexual way. But I also haven't been specifically on guard for that around my dad. He calls me his gorgeous girl every day, and I've been thinking back and analyzing every interaction we've had that I can think of. Update. Posted on our relationship advice. Alright, I promised to give an update on my situation, and honestly, I feel like writing about things has been pretty helpful to me, so here goes. Several people in my initial post advised that I should speak with a therapist before seeing or speaking with either of my parents. I called one I had seen a few times in the past, and she was able to book me in for an emergency session, and she really helped me work through what I saw, as well as my worries, and construct a list of questions to ask my mom when I spoke with her. I met with my mother over the weekend. We met at this park near our house in the afternoon and sat away from everyone. My friend, who I'm staying with, and her boyfriend went with me for moral support, but they hung back and let me talk to my mother alone. I'm not going to go through our entire conversation because we talked for over an hour, but it was pretty much what I had feared. She was role-playing as me when I walked in on her and Dad. She wouldn't confirm how long it had been going on, but gave me a list of several pieces of my clothing, 3 dresses, then 2 of my sleep sets, which she had previously borrowed. She claims they were all cleaned thoroughly before returning them, and I have no reason to believe she wouldn't have cleaned them, but I'm never going to wear any of those things again regardless. It was probably stupid of me, but I asked which one of them came up with the idea for her to roleplay as me. According to her, it was her own idea. I still really don't feel comfortable seeing or talking to my dad, and he hasn't reached out since I walked in on them either, so I guess he isn't comfortable talking to me about it either. My dad was at work when I spoke with her. I made sure of that because I wanted to be able to go by the house and get a few more of my things. She let me go there alone with my friends and get the things I needed before going back to her place. I'm still working on where I go from here. I ended up having to fully explain the situation to my friend's parents. They were both extremely understanding and were willing to let me rent their spare bedroom for a few months while I figured something else out. I'm working on getting more hours at work too. So yeah, that's pretty much all that's happened. I doubt I'll update beyond this, but I'm sincerely thankful to everybody who reached out and tried to help me. Comments from OP. It was her idea to do it. I don't want to be in the house with either of them. It was my decision to leave. She very much wanted me to come home. On parents helping financially. I didn't ask, and they haven't offered. Separately, comments were made to an r/ask Reddit post. I know I'm probably going to end up with daddy issues because of this, and I just really effing hope this isn't how they manifest. If I may ask, you said it was your mom's idea to dress up as such. Do you feel like your mom was lying? I suspected. My father hasn't reached out at all. Feel like they used more clothes. I got rid of everything I owned that was in any way revealing, and I am in the process of purchasing all new stuff because of this fear. Do you feel more uncomfortable around your father than your mother? I don't know. I haven't been around him since. I suspect, though, that it would feel the same. Do you blame your father more than your mother? I blame them both equally. According to Mom, they were both participating actively. Do you feel this was an attempt by your mom to recapture a possible youthful feeling? Possibly. It's been suggested by several women in her age group. Regardless of her initial motivation, I still feel like this was way over the line. Update. Acting out. Posted on OP's profile page. I've always heard that it's natural to act out following a major life event. I guess what I did last night would qualify. Thankfully, I get to wake up, walk out the door, and leave my mistake behind me. This isn't the sort of thing I want to do all the time, but I don't think a one-night distraction is too damaging long-term. Comment by OP. I don't know why I was being so dramatically cryptic, since this is an anonymous account anyway, but I went on Tinder and hooked up last night. Not really my style, and I don't know why I even did it looking back. I have already deleted the app. Note from editor. I'm including OP's adultery submissions to a couple of adult subs, because her regular posts don't come close to conveying just how much she's acting out sexually. Trigger warning. The following 3 posts are sexually explicit, and were posted to adult subs. If you don't want to listen to them, skip down to yet another update. TLDR. After each post, please forgive the wall of text. It was necessary to give the censoring option. I-18F gave head in a parking lot after meeting someone M at the Toronto Indie Race. Posted on gonewildstories. I'm not an adultery writer by any stretch, but writing out my experiences helps me process them. And I've never shared anything like this before, so I thought it might be interesting. Skip to the second break if you'd like to go right to the dirty bits. The first part is more about setting the stage and some flirting. So I actually know nothing about car racing at all, but I got invited to go with some people to the Toronto Indie Race last weekend. I'll be honest, I was just trying to get out of the house and didn't really have high expectations for it. But the race was actually surprisingly exciting to watch. Throughout the race, there was this guy in our group who kept explaining to me what was going on. The rules of racing, basically. Pointing out which cars were which drivers, stuff like that. We'll call him Kevin. He was in his mid to late 20s, don't know his actual age. About 6'2"-ish, with short, curly brown hair, and these really intense green eyes. Clean shaven, with full lips and a big smile. For reference, I'm 5'5", with blonde hair down to my mid-back and blue eyes. My friends have jokingly called me great value. Sydney Sweeney, so go with that for visuals. I'm a bit thicker than her though, with smaller boobs and a larger booty. For most of the day, things were completely PG between us. But towards the end of the race, there was a point where the crowd all stood up, and I couldn't see for like 30 seconds. During that time, he just stepped behind me, grabbed my waist, and lifted me up a few inches so I could see over the 2 people standing in front of us. But he was really cute and had been sweet to me all day, so it kind of woke me up a little bit, sexually. When we sat back down, I decided to push things a little bit and lean into him despite the heat. He didn't say anything, or even move for what felt like a couple of minutes. But then he slid his arm around me lightly. I was dumb, but I got this stupid little grin on my face, knowing he was at least somewhat into me too. Neither of us pressed anything further until we were walking back to Union Station, because we had used the Go to get downtown. We stopped at a crosswalk, and he stood behind me with his hands on my waist again, tipping me back a little bit so I was leaning against his chest. We had been passing a weed pen around as we walked, and my body was kind of buzzing, so I stepped back even further and pressed completely against his chest. I felt him squeeze me a little bit, and I took that as a signal that it was on. I sat on his lap when we got on the train, and I swear, this boy was hard the whole way back to our station. He offered to drive me back to my friend's place, where I'm staying, which I immediately accepted. She definitely knew what was going on, because she wasn't completely pleased with my decision, but she let me go anyway. When we got to his car, he awkwardly told me he would have to stop for condoms if we were going to do anything, but I told him that was fine because I didn't want to go that far just yet. We talked and drove around for a little bit, and he was rubbing my thigh as he drove, which felt amazing. I decided that I had kept him waiting long enough, so I reached over and started playing with his cork while he drove. I told him to go to the park near my friend's place, and I just slowly stroked him the whole way there. He kept making all these little faces as he tried to focus on the road, and then his grin at me whenever we stopped made me blush so hard. He parked facing a group of trees, and there wasn't really anyone around, so I leaned over right there and started sucking his cork. I had been teasing him the whole drive, so I just took him into my mouth and started bobbing my head over his full length. I guess around 5 inches, no adult star level, but very manageable for my slightly inexperienced self. He pushed his hand underneath the skirt I was wearing and into my pants. I had probably soaked through them about halfway through the train ride, and I think he liked that because he called me a dirty little thing when he felt it. He started playing with my vaginal area pretty aggressively, causing me to moan over his cork. Then I think the intensity of the whole situation caught up to him because, with no warning other than, "I'm going," he came into my mouth. It surprised me, and I did not manage to swallow all of it, but I licked the rest off of him before sitting back on the passenger seat. All the while, his fingers kept teasing me in my pants. I can't usually calm from fingering alone, and he offered to eat me out, but I didn't want him to for some reason. I usually love oral, so there is no explanation for that. I just fixed myself up a little bit and walked to my friend's house. He's DMing me daily, but I honestly don't think I'm interested in him beyond this one spontaneous thing. It was really hot though. I've gotten myself off to it several times since. TLDR. OP has an impulsive and intense sexual encounter with a man approx 10 years older than her that she just met at an Indian race, demonstrating both in the encounter and in her retelling of it that her hypersexuality is becoming more of a problem. Update. I made myself calm in the park last night. Posted on our SlottyConfessions. Alright, so I posted here yesterday about how I've been going around wearing sundresses without pants on. Well, I ended up chatting with this really hot couple from the UK. Hi guys. And they talked me into getting a teensy bit bolder with my exploits. Last night, around 1 in the morning, I went to this park that isn't too far from where I'm staying right now, and I took my little vibe with me. I didn't have the courage to sit on a bench where someone might actually walk by, but there's this really big tree with bushes around it that I went to hide behind. I was already dripping when I pulled up my dress, just because of how hot the entire thing was. Once I started playing, it did not take me long at all to calm. Then I just stood there for a few minutes, legs shaking, shocked with myself, before going back to the house. TLDR. OP is talked into getting bolder with her sexuality by a really hot couple from the UK. She pleasures herself in a technically public, but mostly hidden place in a park at night, with plans to do it again during the day. Update. I've mostly stopped wearing pants with my sundresses. Kind of a mild confession by the standards of this sub, probably. But over the past week or so, I've mostly stopped wearing pants underneath my sundresses. Most of them are about my mid-thigh. It's been a really freeing feeling, honestly. There have been a couple of times where I've shown off a bit more than anticipated thanks to a breeze, and that has been so hot. Anyway, that's my small, slotty confession. TLDR. OP has begun getting a thrill out of wearing no underwear with sundresses. Yet another update. So, my story ended up being shared on YouTube by some relatively big channels, and I've gotten a bunch of messages asking if my situation has improved and for me to provide another update. I didn't know if I was going to keep posting here after sharing some of the more explicit things I've done since moving out of the house, but honestly, I don't see the harm in it, and sometimes the messages I get are really sweet, so here goes. I suppose things have gotten both better and a bit worse for me since the last time I updated. I checked back, and the last time I posted an official update was almost 3 weeks ago, but I swear it feels like it's been months. I can't sleep really well because I just have nightmares about walking in on my parents RPing as me, and I'm tired all the time. I've been working with my therapist through this, and she's gotten me on to some relaxation techniques that help. ASMR is a surprisingly effective tool. As far as my living situation goes, I'll be moving into my own bedroom in an apartment with 2 of my co-workers at the beginning of September. Their roommate is moving out, and they were able to give me a good price on rent. I think they took pity on me a little bit since they're both a bit older. Living with my friend isn't working out the best. I mentioned in one of the other updates that her dad was pretty clearly IFing me whenever he was around. He's pushed things a decent bit further since, and started getting grabby with me when he can get me alone. I've developed this really bad hypersexuality thing for some reason since all the SHT happened with my parents. Yes, I am in therapy. Yes, I am working on it. But as a result of that, for some reason, I do absolutely nothing to stop him when he grabs at me. It's effing sick, but I know on some level, I like the attention. I've been avoiding being around the house as much as possible because I know in the back of my head that I'm just not going to say no to him. September can't come fast enough in that regard. Work's been giving me plenty of extra hours, and I've been saving as much money as possible while also slowly buying myself a few pieces of clothing. I've got a plan to get myself back up to a somewhat full wardrobe by Christmas or so. Sorry, these posts have become so dirty. I mean, I know the first relationship advice post wasn't exactly a Disney movie, but I know it's gotten substantially more explicit since. To the people still trying to give advice and offer their fresh perspective, thank you. I've actually been given some really good advice from random people on the internet. The following post contains graphic sexual scenes. TLDR below. Please forgive the wall of text. It was necessary to give the censoring option. Bad update posted to OP's profile page. TW from OP herself. This post contains questionable power dynamics and infidelity. Every single time I post something on this account, I tell myself it's going to be the last post. I'm not going to have a reason to post on here, or I'll wake up from my bad dream or whatever. It hasn't happened yet. Aside from my therapist, I don't have anyone I can discuss my situation with. Random strangers on the internet have been an outlet for me. Messy, but cleaner than dumping all of this on anyone I actually know. I'm sure you can all tell where this is headed, given the title and the trigger warning at the top. Her dad effed me. He found out that I'm moving out of their house at the end of the month and took the first opportunity he had to push things further than he had been going before. Where I live, employers are required to give 2 days off in a row each week. I've been taking extra shifts where I can, but corporate is cracking down on that right now, despite the fact that we've been understaffed and there weren't any available for me to take. The second day of that was 2 days ago. I spent most of the morning with my friend, but she had this family thing to go to with her mom and grandmother, so I was by myself after that. I mentioned in my last post that I've been avoiding him when I'm able to find another place to be, and during the day I go for a lot of walks and stuff, but I can't be out of the house all the time, and I hadn't figured out what I was going to go do yet. About half an hour. Just 30 minutes. That's how long it took for him to decide he wanted to come tease me again. I was in their den area, playing with their 2 cats, when he came downstairs. I knew immediately what he had in mind because he just had that look about him. His standard move is coming up behind me and grabbing my arse before reaching around to my chest. I guess he had made his decision to go further when he came down because he skipped that entirely and just pulled my shirt off and started playing with my chest area. I was moaning pretty quickly, and I could feel him pressing hard into my back too. He told me that he was sad to hear that I'm not going to be around the house much longer. He told me that I'm fun and that he likes having me there. Of course he does. I feel so bad for his wife. He pushed his hand into the leggings I was wearing and started playing with my vaginal area while kissing the back of my neck. That was the point where I went from a deer in the headlights to an active participant. I couldn't make myself say no. The whole thing turned me on, and at the time, I didn't effing care about anything else. I reached back and gave him a handjob for a few minutes, but I lost focus towards the end of it because he made me calm on his fingers twice. It was just the heat of the situation doing it to me. I've thought back, and it's not like he did anything special otherwise. From there, he led me to their bedroom upstairs and effed me on him and his wife's bed. My friend and her mom were gone until the evening. He and I spent pretty much the entire afternoon having sex. What's weird about the whole thing is he actually really sweet. He's nice to me, and other than the groping, he asks for consent before he does anything to me. The big problem is that I effing kept giving him consent. Every time he asked to switch positions or move to one of the other rooms, I was screeching at myself mentally to turn him down. Say no and leave. But every time, I find myself nodding with a smile, making eyes at him, and letting him do whatever he wants to me. My brain just loves making me into a human toy, I guess. It didn't end when they came home either. It's like the game is on, or something for both of us. Whenever we can find time alone, we're all over each other. It's horrible. I went into his office last night when he was working and blew him while she was sitting downstairs watching TV. She's given me no reason to hurt her. In fact, his wife is one of the nicest people I've met and is so supportive of me. None of that stopped me though. I went anyway because I was horny, and he was there. He ate me on the desk afterwards, and I had to look at the pictures of their family on the wall across the room. I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life moving forward or how I'm going to handle this situation. I'm sure I've thoroughly nuked my life. It's just a matter of time when it all goes off. If you actually read all this, and you're not completely disgusted with my existence as a human being, then I thank you for your consideration. I know I'm not making it easy to view me as anything but a problem at this point. Thanks for listening to me vent. TLDR, OP's friend's father previously began groping her when he had the opportunity. When he discovers that she will soon be moving out, and he has an entire afternoon alone with her in the house, he takes advantage of OP freezing up and assays her. However, OP seemingly turns into a willing participant. She even seeks him out for sex at one point, and he takes advantage of her at every opportunity. She knows it's wrong, but compulsively, she cannot stop herself. In her mind, she is screaming at herself to stop. But my brain just loves making me into a human toy, I guess. Update. I have evidence. Posted on OP's profile page. I mentioned in a comment that I found somewhere else to stay last night, as a way of removing myself from the situation with my friend's dad. I was able to find somewhere else to crash over the weekend, so I won't be going back there, at least not immediately. I have the evidence I need to tell his wife what's gone on though. He actually thought it would be a good idea to text me. Probably thinks nothing will come of it because I was so willing when we had sex. I am currently working on a plan for getting the rest of my things from that house and telling her what happened. I know she's going to hate me. My friend is going to hate me. But it needs to be done, and I'm going. Comments by OP. Dad hasn't reached out to speak with me at all. I don't know that I'd want to talk to him if he had. I'm not quite there yet. I have questions, but I don't know if I'm prepared to hear the answers. Update. Accountability. Posted on OP's profile page. Alright, so I'm going to try to hold myself to account as best I can here. My friend's dad reached out to me via text late last night, as I mentioned before, and with the advice of some Redditors, I sexted with him just enough to get incriminating screenshots, and then told him I was going to bed. I'm back at my friend's house, now he isn't home. I told her I stayed with a friend, and she didn't really question it much. I really don't have much here at all, so I've got it all packed up, and I'm going to get it out of the house before I tell her what happened. I'm going to let her tell her mother, or give her the option to be there when I do. Her mom knows me, but I feel like it might be better coming from someone who hasn't effed her husband. My roommates-to-be from work got back to me already too. They told their other roommate enough about my situation that she's fine with me crashing on the couch for the rest of the month and stacking my stuff in the basement until she moves out. I am so effing lucky to have people who were willing to give me a place so quickly. I haven't slept at all. I've just been awake thinking about everything. I think I got a couple of hours, but I'm mostly surviving on coffee right now, haha. Now I want to talk a little bit about my own guilt regarding what happened. I do think I was pressured into the situation, but I don't think that absolves me of all responsibility like some people have suggested. Once it started, I was an enthusiastic participant, and I went back more eagerly. Even sexting with him last night was kind of hot for me. It's messed up, but that's where I'm at right now mentally. I'll make a Tinder at some point to try to find something ongoing, stable, and not completely destructive. This whole thing terrifies me now, because my friend and her family are the ones who have been keeping this secret from people I know socially. There is a pretty good chance now that all my friends are going to find out the whole story. I think I could live with just being slut-shamed, but people knowing the whole thing seems scarier. Honestly, it's a good argument for me to stop these posts, but I don't know. I feel connected to writing it out somehow. It helps me work through things mentally in a way I don't think journaling alone would do. Your guys' input has been so effing helpful, you have no idea. Even when people give me SHT, it really helps. Anyway, that's what's going through my brain today. I guess this is my SHTTY life journal now. Probably my final update. Posted on OP's profile page. Hi, so my situation has calmed down a little bit now. I've been crashing on the couch in my new apartment this past week, and honestly, things have been pretty good. I'm putting that right at the top, so if all you're looking for is to know that I'm safe, and that I think that I'm going to be okay, you have it here. Stuff still got kind of messy as I was leaving my friend's house. I've definitely burned bridges there, but there's nothing I can do about that now. I still ended up sleeping in my friend's house for a couple more days after deciding I was going to figure out a way to tell her and/or her mom about what had happened between me and her dad. It was 2 nights, and he found an excuse to F me the second one. It wasn't sweet or even caring. It just felt mechanical at that point. He came to my bedroom, flipped me over, and took me on the bed, and I didn't do a single thing to stop it. I never asked him not to. I was still entirely frozen. I'm disgusted with myself. He left immediately after because his wife was in their room. I cried a lot and started writing a letter to my friend and her mom. I talked with my therapist about everything. We've gone over everything during 2 sessions, and I'm in a much better mental state now as far as knowing I'm not necessarily a horrible person for not being able to turn down someone who had power over me. My therapist didn't think it was a good idea for me to tell my friend what happened though. That should be left up to her parents to inform her, so my letter ended up just being to her mom. I'm not going to put the text of it on here, because it gives a lot of details that I haven't gone into specifics about. But I gave her the letter on Thursday. I just went over when I knew she'd be around and told her that I needed to talk to her. I sat there while she read the letter I wrote, shaking the whole time. I just wanted to get up and run. My therapist told me her reaction might not be what I expected it to be, and she was correct there. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just asked me to show her the text messages on my phone. I don't think she really believed me until then, because after she saw the messages, she called me a effing W and told me to never come back to her house or around her family. I don't think she's told my friend anything, because she's still reaching out to make sure that I'm all right after moving out of her place, and not really telling her what was going on with me. I'm completely blowing her off. It feels fake to maintain a friendship with her now given what's happened. But I also don't know if that's cruel of me, and I should give her an explanation of some sort. As far as the stuff with my parents goes, they literally haven't said a single thing to me since I told my mom to stay away. I kind of expected something, but they are respecting my request by not reaching out. I think that's everything I have to update people on. Living with a bunch of other adults is kind of weird. I'm not used to cooking for myself on a nightly basis. It's an adjustment, but I'll get there. Thank you all for your help since I posted my original situation. Final comment by OP on the situation. She landed in at her friend's house. I don't think something profound needs to be said. It's a SHTTY situation, and I'm glad that it's finally ending. This has been the longest few weeks of my life. Trigger warning. This last post is not adultery, but does depict nakedness, and was posted to an adult audience. TLDR below. Please forgive the wall of text. It was necessary to give the censoring option. Update. I've been working as a topless maid for extra cash. Posted on our SlottyConfessions. I've done 3 appointments so far. They all pay really well. It's cleaning nice condos for people. The guys just sit there and watch. There's no touching or anything, but I do make a show of cleaning the area immediately around them. I was surprised to learn it's actual cleaning work. I did someone's kitchen last week, and the oven was a pain. TLDR. OP has entered the world of mild sex work by getting a job as a topless maid. Although it pays well, it is still hard work, as she is still expected to actually clean. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.